the same mood. Share the love. Embracing the different days like hand in glove. Sweet peace and joy to beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. Together we stand in love's pure mind. Walking the world in love light. Hearts beat peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. Together we stand in love's pure mind.
Good afternoon and welcome to News at Noon, where we break through the noise and get straight to the facts. Today we have a show that you do not want to miss. President Donald Trump speaks outside the White House, taking questions on everything from immigration to the interest rates that are cut and the economic shock waves that everybody wants to talk about today. Meanwhile, we're going to take a frame-by-frame look at the controversial Minnesota ICE shooting. We're going to go through that video with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm going to show you where the officer was actually touched by her vehicle. Whether people want to accept that or not, well, I don't have a spin on it, but I will show you the evidence that show what the video cannot be refuted. Here in New York City, we have so many people that are protesting for one reason or another. Yesterday, we had a big protest in regards to the nurses. The nurses were out there in the cold fighting back. They want more, and the American people actually want more too. But before we get started today, I have a bonus for you because we have another incident with ICE that people are talking about. And I'm going to show you this incident. I have not seen the video fully, but we're going to go through it together. Let's get to it. Let's see what happened. And by the way, as you come in, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. I see Stella is already in the building. Thank you so much for your great moderation.
We're trying to get status. You got a Honduran here. We're trying to get status. That's fine. Open the door. I'm going to break the window. On 1, 2. I'm going to break it. Open the door. Open it. Last warning.
Well, that's the way to get his attention right out the gate. They broke the glass. They're not playing games, right? I mean, basically here in America, wherever you have ICE or the National Guard, you could be at the gas station just minding your business and walk into a unique episode like what we're seeing here.
Hey, go one way or the other. Don't go back.
Notice all the people for this impromptu event with their cameras out in the background. That makes me a little skeptical. Like, how did they know to show up here at the gas station? I know a lot of these individuals who might be funded. They're actually following ICE. They're letting people know. In the video with Minnesota, remember there's someone blowing whistles and they're trying to inhibit the traffic. That's why the lady had her car allegedly parked cat a corner over the road, and that's how it led to her demise, actually, right? Not saying that it's right. We're just sticking to the facts, no angle.
Back up. Back up.
And by the way, this is breaking. These type of situations are happening every day.
Let Ancestry.
Okay, what do you guys think about that? Let's get to it. We have to endure this commercial, but let's see if there's more.
Help you piece together your story. Get started today at Ancestry.
Back up.
Take a moment, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you. You know, it's one thing for a person to have their cell phone out, but look at these guys. They have heavy artillery. They have the real big cameras. Like, how was this? It almost seemed like it's kind of staged. Like, how did you know this was going to happen? And one thing I want to point out when watching these videos, it seems that ICE and the National Guard, they have to fight with regular civilians while trying to detain people. And sometimes even in the incident that happened in Minnesota, there was a young kids I saw in the video standing on the street. We could get to that today.
Give him your hand! Give him your hand! Now! Give him your hand! Give him your hand! You're not going anywhere! Just don't go any farther.
Is that people blowing their horns? What do you guys think, right? This has turned to a very chaotic event. Wow. Shout out to you, Eric, Deborah. Thank you guys, Sharon, for being here. Pretty Things. Thank you guys so much. Now, he started out in the driver's seat, and now they've worked him all the way through the car, and he's on the ground. Like probably I'd say about 7 or 8 feet from where he started, right? Something to think about.
This is the United States. Stay back. Back up. Back up. You caught it, back it up. Don't you understand? Stay back. Get your mask off. Get your mask off.
Okay, all right, let's see here. This is something different. All right, so I want to make sure this doesn't play again. Okay, let's get rid of this here. All right, so that's it for that. We're going to move on. I'm going to show you now something quite different. We're going to go through the actual shooting that occurred in Minnesota. I just want to make sure that this does not start playing. All right, so I'm going to move on. Now, guys, I'm going to show you in this particular video that her vehicle actually hits the officer, just for those that are insisting that it didn't happen. Now, where you take it from there is your perception, your business. But we're going to see in this video that he's actually struck. And it appears to me that he struck after he releases the shot, probably within milliseconds. But anyway, let's get to this.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us.
And I want you to pay attention in the background. If you look beyond her wife, you'll see in the background the spectators. There's even small children. And also keep in mind from a different frame that once the officer released his bullet, you see the other officers jumping like they don't want to get hit. It's a very dangerous and I'd say kind of a loose event here.
Later. That's fine. U.S. citizen.
Okay, so you just saw the little kid in the background along with other individuals.
You want to come at us? want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
So this is the wife of the lady that lost her life.
Go ahead.
Out of the car.
You can see the dog. So there's a dog in the background. We haven't heard whether the dog made it through the event. I wouldn't be shocked if the dog took a bullet too.
Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Okay, so here you hear the guy make a noise. He's like saying, whoa, you know. So keep that in mind. You also hear, which some have debated whether it was a cell phone dropping or him being hit. Well, I'm going to show you what it really boils down to. We're going to get to it in a second. And I believe he's calling her an effing B is because it's like he's been hit, and that's his retaliation because he was swiped. I think it's showing it's going to build to the narrative, but we're going to get to it. Okay, so listen, look here, right? I put this together nicely so you can see it. I'm going to break it down frame by frame. Now, pay attention. You're going to see where his body, her vehicle, when it strikes him, he doesn't have a natural swing. Even for a person that's trying to move out the way, you might take a couple steps. Even if you know karate and you know how to jump back, even in this case, you're going to see the vehicle actually thrust him backwards. Let's get to it. You see that? You see how he struck? Okay, let's get to it right here. See that? He's actually thrust by her vehicle. Now, when you break it down even slower, you'll see, notice when the gun is fired, I'm trying not to use words that are against YouTube policy, but when you see the blast from his weapon, then you're going to see her vehicle swipe him. It's not a major hit, but they're going to argue, and I believe this is how he's going to avoid any type of serious ramifications, is because notice how he releases. Okay, we're going to get to the blast. Watch this blast. Okay. Boom. There's the bullet. There's the blast. Okay. Now watch what happens when her vehicle. I'm going to go back a little bit. You got to pay close attention how her vehicle kind of pushes his body. He's lost control to a certain extent to where he takes that swipe and then he recovers. Watch this. See the blast? Boom. And right there, you see how his body, it's almost like somebody kicked you in the rear end. It's a very similar motion. It wasn't like a straight on hit, but it's enough for them. They're going to make that argument that he was struck. He was in danger. Now, there's a whole other argument, like, why are you filming in front of the vehicle? And I'm in court all the time. They're going to break it down and says, according to the law, when did you go to school? He's going to say, I went to school in 1995. What did they teach you about standing in front of vehicles? We're not here for that, but I'm just showing you. And we're also going to see it from a different angle where the FBI agent is going to show you also in the next video how he's actually struck again. So let's get back to it. See this? He blasts and he takes a hit. Boom. Blast. And he's
let's put this video on.
Okay, so this is the FBI agent. He's going to, let me see if I can enlarge this so you can see things a little bit better here. Okay, let's see. That's quite not it. Let's see. No, we can't get better, I guess. All right. Okay, so we'll work with what we have here. Okay, so this video, the FBI agent, and keep in mind, he's on a liberal channel. He's not on Fox with a spin to it. He's breaking down, and he's going to highlight how this individual was actually, the agent was actually hit
under the microscope and walk through it. And I can tell you, I've watched this over 24 times right now. The focal point is going to be the front left fender of that vehicle and the agent that is then beyond it who decides to open fire. Now, the way agents are trained, first of all, and the police chief alluded to this in the press conference.
Now, let's see. Island Beauty says he jumped in front of her car. It happened so quickly. I honestly didn't think she had time to process. I don't think she meant to hit him. Good comment. Good comment. Deborah says, I could see how he could have been tapped. Guns have some. Okay, thanks, Bush. Thank you. Bert says, look at his feet and look at the tires turning. That's a good argument. She was turning, but it does not take away from the fact that he was grazed. And that's the argument that they're going to make in court if it ever goes that far, or those that really look into the case. TD says, is there really anyone debating on this matter? He killed her in cold blood. You can pretend you don't see because nothing this administration bothers you. You will find out how great your life is. Okay. All right. Jack says it looks like she hit him after she was shot, so she was already dead anyways when she was shot. Great point. Solid point. I can stand with that. Your World says felony act. Okay, those are all arguments that could be made, but right now we're just focusing on the video and whether or not he was grazed or not. Jack says he fired the shot and then was killed, and that not meaning that she was already dead. How can she control a vehicle? She's shot. She's already dead. You can't control a vehicle. All right, thank you for that. Stella says like, share, and subscribe and turn on your notifications to be notified of upcoming shows. Your World says she blocked the road for 4 minutes. All right, all good arguments. Thank you guys for your participation. Your World says her wife said drive, baby, drive. That's been confirmed. Danita says she should have gotten out of the car as instructed. She would still be here. Okay, good points. Lori says she was murdered. Don't take away from that either. But right now, we're just focusing on, because there's people here that feel like it was justified, people that feel that it wasn't. I'm not here for either cause. I'm just here to show you on video that he was grazed. Okay, Bert says, then he was fast walking to the vehicle, just like her wife, then turned around and clearly see waving the right hand. Okay. Thank you. Alan Beauty says, blocking traffic being a nuance, etc., is not a death sentence, though. Solid point. I'm with you 100% all day on that. Pretty Ting says he called her an F and B right after he took her life, and that will be considered murder. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to court or to a higher level, and you might see, don't be shocked when it may not go the way you're suspecting, because we're living in a very interesting world. Your World says her wife said, drive, baby, drive. She hit the driver before shot. Okay. I debate that. I see the bullet released before he's actually takes his nudge. Jack says he is above the wall and the ICE agent, he's not going to have to pay for what he did. It feels like if you ever watched the movie Handmaid's Tale, it feels like he was getting into that. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Deborah says, if it was me, Mel, with his greeting, I would have been shaking like a leaf. All right. Thank you very much. Let's get back to this video and see what the former FBI agent has to say about the matter.
Is that they're not permitted to fire into a moving vehicle solely for the purpose of disabling the vehicle. When you look at that video, you can actually see that vehicle making contact, the front left of that vehicle, with the ICE agent who was there. But again, it'll come down to a matter of question. Could that agent have moved out of the way? They're not required to retreat. There's no duty to retreat when facing someone who may be potentially violent. Now, there's another thing to point out too, and that's the angle that we see from the bystander, is that it appears just before the shots are fired, the front wheels on that vehicle turn to the right. That's an indication, obviously, to us from that vantage point that the driver is about to move out of that location toward the right. That's why this is such a powder keg, because there are essentially two aspects of this. There's the policy, the law, what agents are allowed to do, and there's an issue of judgment. Just because you can do something, should you? That is why we're going to continue to see this outrage, because that agent's decision to pull his weapon, if he indeed found himself in a situation where he's in fear for his life, caused the death of a local resident there.
Okay. All right. So we get the angle from the FBI agent. I think it's very important. We see two different angles that show that he actually was grazed. A lot of people get upset about this subject when you say that he was grazed or struck. They just can't hear it. Again, we're not adding any commentary about should she have been shot and all of that. That's everybody's entitled to what they think, but just even showing the breakdown, people because in their minds, or perhaps the first narrative said that he was not grazed. People get so upset when you show the video. It just can't be true. It doesn't fall in line with my narrative. All right, that's not what we're pushing. I'm just showing you the bare essence of the video. You see him being grazed. V Main says white on white crime. Okay. All right. Thank you, Stella. Thanks for your hard work. She says, thank all for keeping their comments respectful and mindful of the YouTube policies. It's very important. Bird, welcome back. Doesn't explain the second and third shot. Absolutely not. Outrageous what happened. We're not condoning that at all. What we're just showing what has been brought up on the channel previously. Your World says liberals are insane. Okay. Island Beauty says, Mel, could you clarify, please? Was she directed to get out of the car or asked to move the car? So far from what I've seen in the video, I see the officer told her to get out of the effing car. I also hear her mate tell her to drive, baby, drive. As far as previous to that, I do not hear the officer telling her. Maybe it happens. I'm not taking away from that, but I'll go back, research that, and then I'll play this again. I just want to be accurate. It seemed like, if my imagination serves me right, it seemed like in the very beginning she was told to move, but I might have just heard that from one of the other channels that are or news sources that are biased. So I just want to get the facts. Bert says, still hasn't explained the second and third shot. Okay, that's a repeat. Okay, feet and tires again. Okay, all right. One Love says the agent was wrong. Don't take away from that at all. I think they're going to point that out, but will it turn into time for the agent? I'm not sure. David says, okay, your eyes are lying to you. Okay, David, if you want to come on and explain it and give us some facts as to how that's true, then I'd be more than happy to bring you on. All right. Your World says her wife said, drive, baby, drive. Hit the driver before shot. Okay. All right. Brian says, why did she drive away? Exactly. But that's not my angle today. I'm just showing you on the video that the officer was grazed. Danita says she had been harassing ICE agents for quite some time. They put up with it till she went too far. She was asked to get out of the car. Okay. I don't dispute that at all. Thank you guys very much for the comments in regards to this matter. So I wanted to cover that. Now we're going to move on and discuss. Donald Trump gave some words today on his way to Detroit. We're going to take a look at it. The very first part of this video is hard to hear Donald Trump, President Trump, but you'll start to hear him clearly, okay?
As you know, the inflation numbers just came out, and we have very low inflation. So that would give Kool-Aid Powell the chance to give us a nice, beautiful, big.
Okay, simply says tensions were high because she was stalking him all day. Not taken away from that. That's true. One Love says, I'm invisible. Not sure. Maybe I missed something. Okay. Lee says, let the law do what it's supposed to do. A lawless country is doomed, and you're seeing it in real time. Great point. Okay, very good. Pretty Ting says, it makes you wonder why the White House rushed to push a narrative aimed specifically at the MAGA base. Very solid comment. I observed that as well. Bert says he wasn't in a defensive posture. His hands were not extended. Things were in his and hands. Not sure exactly what that means, but I did see in the video where his hands are extended over the hood to a certain degree. So I'm not sure exactly your point. Your World says no one protested for the illegal immigrant who killed Americans. The agenda for the Democrats to stop the fraud happening in Minnesota. Okay, thank you very much. Lee says vigilantes are out of order. The person she was in love with was the one who said, drive, baby, drive. And I think that's the part where everybody's getting confused. They think the officer is saying that, but it's clearly her mate. I want to go back and see if an officer told her to drive off previously. I don't think so, but I'll check it out. Island Beauty says, okay, thanks. I'm curious to know. Seems like getting out of the car in the middle of the road would have been a safety issue. Okay, very good. Thank you for that point. One Love says, one agent said to move, the other one said to get out. Two conflicting directions. Okay, so it appears that maybe an agent said get out prior to that. I'll have to go back and check. We'll get to that.
Rate cut, which would be great for the country, but rates are falling also, and growth is going up. We have tremendous growth numbers, so growth is going up. So I'll be talking about that today in Detroit, the big speech, and I can only say that the country's doing well. You saw my statement on Iran. You saw my statement on Minnesota. On Minnesota, we have taken out killers, rapists, drug dealers, people from mental institutions that came in illegally. All of them, most of them came in illegally. They're from other countries. They came in under the Biden ridiculous open border policy, and we've gotten a lot of them out. We just had numbers from Chicago, where Chicago crime has gone down pretty good. It could go down 100% virtually, but we're fighting with that governor who's so incompetent. But as you know, we took out a lot of killers, murderers, drug dealers, drug addicts, mental institution people, and people from jails. We took them out of Chicago. So Chicago's got much better numbers now than it had a few months ago.
Most of the videos I'm seeing on Instagram, TikTok, and other places are people are trying to say that Donald Trump has dementia, and they'll show, like in this video, he's repeating himself several times. I wonder what that's about. Do you guys think there's any basis for these type of claims?
We will get no credit for it, but these are minor details. Crime in Washington, D.C. is almost non-existent. It's a safe place, so people can come bring their families. They can send their son and daughter to look at Lincoln, Washington, Jefferson, or whatever they want to look at. But it's almost non-existent. We're very proud of that. Memphis is making tremendous strides, and so is New Orleans. We have a whole group of people, and crime in New Orleans is down about 65%. We've only been there for 3 weeks. So it's really amazing what's happening throughout the country. The crime numbers are among the best numbers we've ever had.
So we see the president, he's taking a victory leap here, talking about his achievements in 3 major cities and how they've gotten rid of the criminals for various reasons, such as drugs and other activities as well. And I shouldn't have used the word, I'd say rugs going forward, hopefully. All right, let's get back to it.
Well, he's billions of dollars over budget, so he either is incompetent or he's crooked. I don't know what he is, but he certainly doesn't do a very good job.
Are you committed to mass deportations among all this bad PR that we've seen and attacks that we've seen on ICE?
We're getting rid of a lot of people that are criminals that shouldn't be in our country. They came in through Biden's open borders, and we're getting them out of our country. That's why our crime numbers are so good. We have record.
So he's placing the blame on Joe Biden for allowing millions of people to come into the country. And now he's basically saying that it's not happening on his watch. In fact, later in the show, I'm going to show you how the Somalians have been turned around, and they have a certain amount of time to get out of the country to self-deport before things get even uglier, especially in Minnesota. But the big talk today, and I often say on the channel, people get frustrated. They want to counsel you, whatever the reason might be. But I can call out things that I see good and I see bad. And there are good things that I see coming forth from the president, and I can identify the bad. And sometimes I do it all in one show. But when it comes to pharmaceuticals, the president is working to lower the prices for individuals living in the country, although certain actions are debated as far as the health care going up to a ridiculous amount each month. So we have to be able to navigate this. But now we're going to talk about how the president is helping with the credit cards by putting a cap on some of these credit cards. The interest rate is 28%. You pay interest forever. If you go and buy something for $100, you literally pay for it the rest of your life. You know, that's the way they set up to win and make more money. Well, the president has put a cap on credit cards at 10% for a year. We're going to get to that. Let's get to it.
So I want a cap on credit card interest rates because, you know, some of them are 28, almost 30%. And that people don't know they're paying 30%. We're putting a one-year cap at 10%.
So in many regards, the president is keeping his word. I mean, I don't know why people get so, if they don't like a person, when it comes to Joe Biden, you should be able to look at him and say, well, you know, I don't think he should have did this. I'm happy with this, right? Same goes with Donald Trump. Say no to Rio says leftists are just simple people. All right. Bert says if he was hit by, why was he still holding his cell phone? All right. Thank you very much for that. Although I think once he was hit, we no longer saw any frames from the cell phone. Again, Chupa is saying F around and find out. That's a common thread we're hearing now. Your World says no one is protected for the illegal immigrant who killed Americans. Okay, that's a repeat comment. Lee says there's no new video with a new angle. Okay, all right. But slowing it down, we still see that the officer was grazed. I mean, you can build on that, your own philosophy, but we're just going by the video. And I know if this goes to court, it's going to be broken down into frames, just like I saw with Sean Diddy Combs with the Cassie video. Say no to Rio says, I wanted to be sad about it, but she was a terrorist. Okay, all right. No indication that she was a terrorist. I think she was just trying to get out of there. She did turn her wheels to the right, and then you could also argue that he should not have been in front of her vehicle. So, but again, we're not getting to those arguments. We're just staying focused that he was grazed. Bert says, and his firearm was still in his right hand. Okay. Stella says, like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified for upcoming shows. Let's get back to the credit cards, and Donald Trump has put a cap on the interest rates. That could be very effective in your personal life, especially with saving more money.
And that's it. They know it. They've really abused the public. The credit card companies have totally abused it. I'm not going to let it happen.
And that's the president last night calling for a one-year cap on credit card interest rates. He wants that cap to be 10%. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York reports that Americans owed a staggering $1.23 trillion in credit card debt in the third quarter of 2025. But, of course, this is a big piece of business for the major banks. U.S. prosecutors, meanwhile, are investigating Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell over his congressional testimony back in June of last year. He testified in front of the Senate Banking Committee, and the Senate and others have said that he misled them. Powell is calling it political intimidation linked to the president's desire for lower interest rates. And he says it's threatening the Fed's independence. Watch this.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
And that was very rare and extraordinary for the Federal Reserve to come out with this video of Jay Powell last night in response to this investigation. Joining me now is Kansas Senator Roger Marshall, a member of the Senate Budget Committee and Senate Finance Committee. Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning. It's always a pleasure to see you and speak with you. What is your reaction to this investigation into Jay Powell?
Well, Maria.
Yeah, Jay Powell was in the hot seat. And keep in mind, actually, I want to put it in the comments, who appointed Jay Powell? You can get a chance to have $20 in your Cash App. Tell us who appointed Jay Powell. Rick Young says, Donald Trump says we're going to have a big, big, beautiful bill, and we're going to have a big, beautiful bill. Okay, all right. Bert says no defensive posture. Okay, One Love says There was a possible attempt on Trump's life this morning, suspicious package of his trip to Air Force One. That's a constant occurrence that we see in regards to Donald Trump. Your world says no one is protected for the illegal immigrant. Okay, that's a repeat. Greg says America first, America. All right, guys, we have to cut back on the repeat comments. Unfortunately, I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again. No Name says, don't try to run over cops and you won't get shot. It's not rocket science. Okay, thank you for your comment. Pretty Thing says, I hope things change for the better. I believe this is the turning point for the country and the people need to wake up. All right, let's get back to it.
Jerome Too Late Powell, he's the one that's made this political. You go back to the last presidential election, right before the election, he drops the interest rates. Did we even need a new federal building? It was budgeted under $2 billion. It's $2.5 billion. I think this president's sending a message to everybody that we're going to be looking out for fraud, waste, and abuse. Meantime, we have a housing crisis out here, and interest rates remain too high, and people can't achieve that American dream of owning their own house.
Yeah, I know, and I understand that, and you know, I agree that Jay Powell politicized the Federal Reserve. I mean, you look at how he jammed through these DEI policies down everybody's throats, and as you said, raised interest rates. And by the way, cut interest rates rather, not just by.
Okay, so this is starting to be propaganda, so we're going to move on from it, but we get the point of what's happening in regards to the federal chair. A lot of people don't realize that the federal is actually, the reserve is actually its own entity. I would say if you can do the research on it, you'll see how it actually works. You'd be quite shocked that the average American don't realize how it works when it comes to the money and the interest rates. Now we're going to move on to see how Donald Trump is taking on heat from the courts and from Congress. Let's see what's happening.
News out of Washington and a big announcement from President Trump about Somalis living in Minnesota.
Tonight, the president posted on Truth Social, quote, I am, as president of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from, end quote. Now, we're working to learn the legal.
Okay, Pretty Thing says that the president is very sharp and he knows exactly what he's doing. Okay. All right, thank you for that. That's the pushback on this whole concept that he has dementia, that a lot of people are pushing the narrative, especially on social media as you swipe. Ben says, King Trump. Okay. Wolver says, woke America. Ben says, GOAT, greatest of all time. Okay, thank you very much. Alan Beauty says, no dementia. Repeating himself is just a style of speech, especially if you want to be convincing. All right, thank you for that breakdown. Wolver says, take the wake weirdos too. Okay, Say No to Rio says, best president by far. Okay, a lot of people feel that way. Bert says, Mary Trump said that he's starting to look like her grandfather at 80 years old. Okay, let's get back to it.
Legality of the president's plan and the potential impact.
We know Minnesota has the largest Somali population in the United States, with the last estimate by Minnesota Compass at more than 79,000 people. Callan Gray is working on this in the newsroom, and Callan, reaction is coming in fast tonight.
That's right. Just in the last hour, Governor Walz responding, saying, quote, it is not surprising the president has chosen to broadly target an entire community. This is what he does to change the subject. End quote. Congressmember Ilhan Omar also pushing back, posted on X, quote, I am a citizen and so are majority of Somalis in America. Good luck celebrating a policy change that really doesn't have much impact on the Somalis you love to hate. We are here to stay. According to National Immigration Forum, as of October, there were 705 people from Somalia in the U.S. with TPS, and we're working to get the total count here in Minnesota. Temporary protected status is meant for those whose home countries are experiencing civil unrest, violence, or natural disasters. Somali immigrants have been eligible since 1991. The Department of Homeland Security says this was most recently extended through March of next year.
So basically, Donald Trump is giving them the boot. These are stressful times for individuals that may be from Somalia or what have you. One Love says, just to be clear, despite your personal political choices, I'm not your enemy. We're all one family that suffer the same ills. Thank you, One Love. We appreciate your commentary on that. Danita Williams says, I admire by businessman president. He's not a politician. Okay. Say No to Rio says, all the bad is propaganda. Okay. Petro says, gas is less than $2, guys. Trump said it. All right. Let's get back to it.
And security has the discretion to designate a country for TPS for periods of 6 to 18 months and can extend it if the country continues to meet the conditions for designation. I just spoke with Julia Decker with the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. She explained typically TPS terminations have to be posted on the Federal Register before the date the country's designation is set to expire. I just checked Homeland Security's website in the last few minutes, and Somalia is still listed. Decker also explained this is not done state by state, so the federal government will have to end TPS for all Somali immigrants, not just those here in Minnesota. The Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations tonight says this will tear families apart, calling it a political attack based on hateful rhetoric and urging the president to reverse the decision. But Republicans are praising the announcement. Republican State House Speaker Lisa Damath, who is running for governor, shared the president's post saying, quote, President Trump is right. Fraud is out of control and unacceptable. Going on to say anyone involved in these criminal activities should be swiftly deported if they are not lawfully present in the U.S. Republican House Majority Whip Tom Emmer tonight thanked the president. Kevin.
Okay, that's Kellen Gray. Now, Minnesota's Republican delegation in Congress, including Tom Emmer, shared a letter with us that they just sent to U.S. Attorney for Minnesota Daniel Rosen. And in this letter, they're asking for an investigation into Governor Walz's, quote, inaction and improper handling of fraud.
They're also asking for Rosen to look into reports Minnesota taxpayer dollars are ending up in the hands of the al-Shabaab terrorist network in Somalia. A source in the U.S. Attorney's office tells us they don't have an exact dollar amount, however, says, quote, al-Shabaab.
So basically, taxpayers' money is ending up with these terrorist groups in other countries. This is just an abomination, just to say the least. But anyway, we basically get the point of what's happening. And the Somalians have, under the temporary program, pretty much have to leave by a certain date or they will be moved out. Okay, now we're going to see how the courts and also Congress are actually pushing back on Donald Trump. At one time, it seemed like everything that Donald Trump was doing, going to the Supreme Court, was golden. But let's see.
Amid just the blitz of headlines on what has been a gigantic news day following a gigantic news week, you might not have noticed the news today. You might not have seen the headline today that today a federal court blocked the Trump administration from cutting energy funding just for blue states. This is billions of dollars Congress approved.
So Donald Trump wanted to box out the blue states and only give it to the red, but it was turned around. I want to get to this comment here. Bruce says he's doing everything he said he would do. And then Beach says Trump just talks. So we see there's people here with different philosophies when it comes to Donald Trump. Edward said President Trump don't say anything until everything is investigated and all the facts are in. Avoid all the questions right now. For the meantime, just put on hold. Okay. Say No to Rio says bless ICE. Okay. Bina says the Jews. And Batty says it's wild that the party's small government supports a federal police force bigger than the Marine Corps that kills with impunity and operates outside the Constitution.
Appropriated for clean energy projects of various kinds all over the country. Trump administration
250 people here. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, help us grow. We just hit 20,000 subscribers. We thank you dearly.
Decided, and they admitted this. They decided that just in blue states, just in states that didn't vote for Trump, they would cut all of that funding. They'd leave the funding in place in states that voted for Trump. They would cut it in states that didn't vote for Trump. A federal court today ruled that that is illegal and stopped the Trump administration from doing that. That ruling today came after another federal court today stopped Trump from shutting down.
All right, so now we have another example coming through. Devin says no interest rate will skyrocket inflation. Okay, Beach says 10% cap, like the 5,000 he was going to pass out. Well, I have a video that I'm going to do in a deep dive where Donald Trump is like, what 2,000 I was going to give you? And then he said, you might receive it by the end of the year. So that $2,000 that each American would receive has become very elusive these days.
On a big offshore wind farm in Rhode Island and Connecticut. Trump's shutdown of that project, according to the courts today, was also illegal. And so yet another federal court blocked Trump on that as well. So that work on the wind farm will be able to go ahead. Both of those rulings today follow last night, yet another federal court blocking Trump, this time from cutting funding to the American Academy of Pediatrics. This is a doctors group, a pediatricians group that criticized the flock of ducks level insane quackery at Trump's Department of Health and Human Services under RFK Jr. Trump responded by canceling federal grants for the American Academy of Pediatrics. A judge has now ruled that that was illegal retaliation. And so Trump is blocked from doing that. That funding has to be reinstated. That ruling comes after another federal judge just blocked Trump from cutting off federal election funds to states in retaliation for them not changing their election rules in ways that Trump wants. The judge said, quote, the Constitution assigns no authority to the president over federal election administration. And so Trump got blocked on that one, too. Shall I keep going? I could keep going. Another federal court just blocked Trump from freezing billions of dollars for childcare and social services for kids. Again, in Democratic-run states as some kind of punishment against those states for
So we're starting to see Donald Trump push it back on people that do not support him. We see it at the politician level with Walls and other individuals that are taking the heat, but also the states. If you're in a blue state and you're not supporting Donald Trump and his mission, he's cutting the funds, he's playing at a high level and really shutting people down.
Electing Democrats, punishing them for that by cutting off the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families program. Because, you know, what would Jesus do?
Okay, RLS says, I am for the ICE mission. I know Good was a victim and murdered. Okay, thank you very much. Slick Rick says, why in the hell is there a GoFundMe for the agent that shot the lady? It's up to $375,000 right now. What the? Man, that's news to me. I will be looking that up the minute I get off of this live. Big Fog says, y'all will get that 2,000 just like his building contractors got what they signed up for. Ha ha. Now here in upstate New York, I was talking with a gentleman that runs a business, and he was so upset with Donald Trump. I said, why? He said, well, back in the day, I used to run a business where we were contractors, and we were building a big, huge golf course for Donald Trump, and he would show up and have us basically clear out all of the employees, the contractors working. And if they were not out of there by a certain time, they were threatened to be fired. But he said that they never were paid for building this golf course and doing the sheetrock and all of this. So that's why a lot of these local individuals here in New York do not like the president. I thought that was quite interesting. He even had photos from the project that he really preaches about Donald Trump, but it's from a negative point of view.
Trump was also just blocked from doing that by yet another federal court. It's almost like he is losing all the time and everywhere now. There may still be people in America who are shocked that Trump keeps breaking the law over and over again.
300 people here. Please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Danita says, wind farms are so bad. Yes, Donald Trump has been preaching about that as well. Critical says they will ignore when Biden said they would give him a check, and they never did, like we had to. Okay, thank you for the pushback. John Rowley says, why are wind farms so bad? Okay. One Love says, all liberal judges. All right, good point.
Again, blatantly and insistently, the courts no longer appeared to be shocked by that. And the courts now are just telling him no, very bluntly, every single day and often multiple times.
Deborah says, hopefully the judges hold the line. It looks like they are. Chico says, she was a victim of her and her girlfriend's stupidity. Stay out of the way. All right. Danita says, paper ballots only. RLS says, should Trump and President take over Minnesota as he wants to do Venezuela? Again, guys, I was in court last week with Nicolas Maduro and his wife. I was actually sitting right behind them. I cover these cases, so if you want to know about these cases, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, support the channel by liking the videos. Friday, I was in court with Luigi Mangione, and then yesterday, I was one of the rare people that covered the L.A. Reid case as well.
And it's not even just the courts. As I know you are aware, last week in one 48-hour stretch, we had a Senate vote for a war powers resolution to block Trump from any further military adventurism in Venezuela. 5 Republican senators crossed over to side with Democrats to pass that war powers resolution. It was enough to advance that. It's going to get another vote in the Senate this week. That came right on the heels of 17 Republicans in the House breaking ranks with Trump and siding with Democrats on the Affordable Care Act to try to at least temporarily undo the disastrous decision Trump and Republicans made in their so-called Big Beautiful Bill, the decision to send tens of thousands of American.
So Trump is receiving pushback from different levels. We see it from the judges and also from Congress.
Families' health insurance rates through the roof. 17 Republicans crossed over, defied Trump, and joined with Democrats to pass that health care matter in the House. Now it's going to come to the Senate. Trump is now whining about how he might have to veto it if and when it passes in the Senate as well, because he definitely wants to make sure that people's health insurance premiums double or triple in cost for nothing other than something that he personally.
What do you guys have to say about the healthcare prices going up, the premiums?
He apparently wants that. I mean, what we've just seen in Congress is one of the worst rebukes Trump has had from congressional Republicans since he has been back in office this whole disastrous year. And I got to tell you, this didn't get as much attention as it should, but right on the
Now, I just want to mention, Mom Handel says, I agree with that. The Supreme Court should make voting laws for paper only. Keep in mind today, guys, the Supreme Court is looking into whether or not the whole transgender men playing in women's sports. So, you know, if you were born a male, you can't just go playing sports with the girls per se. So we'll have to cover and see what the Supreme Court has to say in regards to this matter that so many people want to know about. Stella says, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Jeremy says it's all fake news. Everything is fake, folks. Milano says, just more rage baiting and projection, twisted narratives that should be under the opinion section. Sell out Rachel. Okay, not happy with Rachel. For every video I show, there's 25 people that don't like that channel. It is what it is, folks, or that station or that legacy media. But we try to play it all to get a balanced view of things. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on, and I'm going to show you guys yesterday the nurses in New York City. Do we have any nurses in the crowd? The nurses in New York were on strike yesterday out in the cold, and let's see what they were talking about.
Joining me now is a nurse at Mount Sinai Morningside Hospital, Simone Way. Simone, thank you for taking the time this morning.
Thank you.
You walked off the job this week. What's the crux of this for you? What are you fighting for?
Oh, currently we are fighting for health care. We work at a hospital. We are nurses. We take care of the sickest patients in New York City. And yet our hospital is trying to slash our health care benefits. So if they slash our health care benefits, nurses will have to.
Now, how does that work? You're a nurse taking care of people day in, day out. In the place you work, the hospitals, they're trying to slash your health care. What's going on?
Pretty much pay for their health care. And we don't think that that is acceptable.
Do you get a sense of exactly where you are right now in negotiations? Because I know you've said y'all have been fighting for this since the fall. Any idea where things lie and what red lines the hospital is drawing in this fight?
Well, currently where things lie are there are no negotiations happening. The nurses are on strike. We're on the picket line. So we can't be in negotiations and be on the picket line. Our businesses, our bosses are not willing to come to the table currently and to iron this out. And if they're not willing to come to the table, we are forced to stand up for ourselves, stand up for our rights, and walk that picket line, whether.
Okay, you see what the sign says? Nurses deserve good health benefits too. Okay, thank you very much. Terry says Trump forever. If you don't like, then you're part of the problem. MAGA. John Stevenson, welcome back. Nice to have you back, John. Says he's pushing back on fraud and wasteful spending that just happens to happen in the blue states and voter ID corruption. Okay. Milano says they should talk to the subcontractors about that. Okay. User says Greenland, 51 states. Okay. It's just a matter of time before Donald Trump takes Greenland. I believe he's going to have Cuba as well. And you might even see Colombia take on the heat too. Donald Trump is definitely taking over a lot of places. There's a big argument that people are saying, why are we going to help Venezuela? Why are we trying to take Greenland? And if you go to Baltimore and you try to walk down the street, you could potentially have your, I won't say that, but you could be injured in a very terrible manner, okay, in our own country. So how can we go and solve world problems? That's what the people want to know. Danita says he may lose in court, but when it goes to a higher court, he has been winning. Okay, thank you for the insight. Beat says check is check. Don't care who promised it. Okay, Deborah says, so proud of you, Mel, 20,000. Thank you very much. And I couldn't have done it without you guys, especially people like yourself and Stella and all the moderators who, Eric and Gold Digger, everybody that really puts in the work to make it work. Thank you. And thank you to all the subscribers as well. Now we're going to move on. And I want to take a moment and I want to have a discussion with you guys, right? This is a rare moment for me. But I want to ask you, why do you think, right? Remember Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she used to support Donald Trump like beyond compare? Why was she all of a sudden change course, so much so that she resigns from her office and now she has this whole campaign against Donald Trump? Why do you think that would happen? Remember, she was one time synonymous with MAGA. You couldn't think about Donald Trump without thinking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Well, today I have her breaking news that came out, her own explanation as to why she's taking a stance with Donald Trump. And guess what? Take a guess as to why she took this stance on Donald Trump. What person or name that could have arisen to make her go to drastic measures against a person that basically help her create her political career? Yes, indeed, it's Epstein, folks. And that's what we're going to look at now. I want you guys to pay attention how serious it is. Also, we saw Don Bongino, right? Or Dan Bongino. He's changed his position, right? Working for the FBI after going in. He was going to clean out the swamp, and now he left under weird circumstances. But I want you to pay attention to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Going to tell you about the phone conversation that ended my relationship with Donald Trump, destroyed my political career, and proved that some secrets in Washington are more dangerous than others. This conversation happened in September 2025, after I promised Jeffrey Epstein's victims that I would help identify their abusers. And everyone in my congressional office heard every word of it. The call came the day after I held a press conference promising to work with Epstein survivors to reveal the names of people responsible for sexual abuse against women and girls. I had just finished a closed-door House oversight hearing where I listened to these women tell their stories. They were trembling. Their bodies were shaking as they described being raped at 14, at 16, by rich and powerful men who thought they could buy silence along with everything else. I told those women I would help them get justice. I told them their stories mattered more than protecting powerful people who had escaped accountability for too.
Folks, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, a strong supporter of Donald Trump previously.
Long. I told them that transparency and truth were more important than political comfort and connected relationships. That press conference triggered the phone call that ended everything. I was in my office when my staff told me the president was on the line. I put the call on speakerphone as I usually did for official conversations. What happened next was loud enough that everyone in my suite of offices could hear Donald Trump screaming at me about the Epstein files. He was extremely angry that I had signed the discharge petition to force release of the government files connected to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking case. He was furious that I had promised to help identify people who had abused these women. And when I tried to explain why transparency mattered, he said something that I will never forget. My friends will get hurt. That's what the President of the United States told me when I asked him to support victims of sexual trafficking, not this will compromise ongoing investigations, not this will damage national security, not this will interfere with justice. He said his friends would get hurt. I was so shocked by that response that I asked him to clarify what he meant. I told him about the women I had just met, how they had been raped as children, how they had spent decades waiting for someone in power to care about their suffering more than they cared about protecting their abusers. That's when he made it clear that he cared more about protecting his connections than supporting their victims. He attacked the women I was trying to help, saying they hadn't done anything to merit an invitation to the Oval Office. He said they didn't deserve the honor of meeting with the president. The women who were trafficked and abused as children didn't deserve the honor. But the people who trafficked and abused them deserved protection because they were his friends. That call lasted about 20 minutes. Everyone on my staff heard the President of the United States prioritize the comfort of Jeffrey Epstein's associates over the justice that Epstein's victims had been seeking for decades. They heard him explicitly state that protecting powerful men was more important than acknowledging the suffering of the women and girls those men had harmed. But what shocked me most wasn't just what he said, it was the tone in which he said it. He wasn't conflicted about this decision. He wasn't struggling with competing.
Folks, this is not a Democrat. She was a key part to MAGA Republican, and now she's saying these things about Donald Trump. So what do you guys say? What's your argument to push back on Marjorie Taylor Greene, what she's saying about Donald Trump in connection with his relationship with Epstein?
Priorities. He was angry.
Tell us in the comments. We want to know.
That I was creating problems for people he cared about by supporting people he didn't care about. The message was clear. Jeffrey Epstein's victims were expendable. Jeffrey Epstein's associates were not. After that call, I knew I could never trust Donald Trump's judgment.
Okay, Pretty Ting says MAGA wants you to believe that this is AI. Wow.
About anything involving accountability for powerful people. I knew that when it came to choosing between justice and protecting connections, he would always choose connections. I knew that all the talk about draining the swamp was just talk when the swamp included his friends. But what really ended our relationship wasn't just that phone call. It was what happened afterward, when I realized that supporting sexual trafficking victims was somehow more controversial in Republican politics than protecting the people who had trafficked them. I started getting calls from other Republican members telling me to back off the Epstein files. I started getting pressure from party leadership to focus on other issues. I started getting lectured about the importance of party loyalty and political timing and strategic considerations. No one called to ask.
So the question is, do you want justice or do you want to protect your party? Tell us what you think.
Ask about the women I had met. No one seemed concerned about the fact that powerful people had sexually abused children and escaped accountability. No one wanted to discuss whether the American people deserved to know which government officials had been compromised by their connections to Jeffrey Epstein. The only concern was protecting the Republican Party from embarrassment and
Okay, I'm looking for some solid answers. Let me see if we have anything so far as to why. Now, this is not a Democrat. This is not Nancy Pelosi that went through all these changes over Donald Trump. This was his right-hand lady from a political standpoint. Okay. AP Torres says the truth is their worst enemy. Okay. Pretty Ting says she's correct for a change. She came to her senses. Okay, all right, very good. User says she is not lying, but the less of the two evils, choose one. Okay, all right. Seifa says she is standing for truth and justice. Okay, no arguments in regards to how, other than that this could be AI. I don't see anybody really pushing back or explaining why she took a major change in regards to Donald Trump. And over anything in the world, it had to be with Epstein, right?
protecting connected people from exposure. That's when I understood that the Epstein files represented everything wrong with Washington. Rich, powerful elites doing horrible things and getting away with it while the women who suffered were treated like the problem for asking for justice. I couldn't be part of that system anymore. I couldn't pretend that party loyalty was more important than supporting victims of sexual trafficking. I couldn't stay quiet about what I had witnessed just to preserve political relationships with people who thought protecting abusers was more important than supporting their victims. So I kept.
Okay, Pretty Ting says, besides Satan, no one can get worse than Trump. Wow. Okay, Safa says, we want justice. Okay, thank you. Shine says, don't believe this. Okay, looks fake. Everybody that doesn't agree with it says it's fake.
Pushing for release of the Epstein files, even after that phone call made it clear that doing so would destroy my relationship with the president. I worked with Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie to force the administration to begin releasing some heavily redacted files through the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We succeeded in getting that legislation passed, but the files that were released.
It looks like she went inside the building and she saw a ghost, and now she's running away from it based on what she's saying. John Stevenson says it's true, and I want to hear the tapes and see records and hear from other witnesses. If it comes out true, then we have a serious problem and Trump will lose my support. Okay, thank you very much, John.
Were so heavily redacted that they raised more questions than they answered. The administration released the minimum required.
Okay, Greta, we have another point of view. Who paid this woman to say these things? Okay, so now it's not AI, but who could have paid her to have to say this? This could not be her own point of view.
By law, delivered with maximum reluctance after fighting transparency every step of the way. And through it all, I kept thinking about that phone call and what it revealed about priorities in Washington.
Toe Cutter, we started off this video showing the slow motion video of what happened in Minnesota and that the officer was actually grazed by the vehicle. You can see it in the video, so I'm not sure what your angle is, but we've already covered that starting at noon today.
President was more concerned about protecting his friends than supporting sexual trafficking victims. Republican leadership was more concerned about avoiding political embarrassment than pursuing justice for crimes against children. The women I met in that hearing had waited decades for someone in power to prioritize their suffering over the comfort of their abusers. What they got instead was a political system that treated their quest for justice as a threat to be managed rather than a cause to be supported. That's not acceptable in a country that claims to value justice and accountability. It's not acceptable for any political party.
Okay, I forgot to go over this with you guys, but put a 1 in the chat if you believe now that the officer was actually grazed by the vehicle. of the lady who lost her life, unfortunately, in Minnesota, or put a 2 in the chat if you feel like she did not touch him at all with the SUV. So I just want to gauge and see where we are. For those of you who have just come into the chat or so forth, watching the video, we started off today showing the video in slow motion, and you could actually see how the vehicle grazed the ICE agent
that claims to care about protecting children from sexual predators. And it's not acceptable for any president who claims to be fighting against corrupt elites who think they're above the law. But it's exactly what I witnessed during 5 years in Congress, a system where protecting powerful people is always more important than supporting their victims, where political relationships matter more than moral principles, where party loyalty trumps basic human decency. I couldn't stay part of that system once I understood how it really worked. I couldn't keep representing voters who thought I was fighting for transparency and accountability while I was actually participating.
Okay, so Pretty Ting says, notice how if you don't agree with MAGA base, what you say against them is either AI, you're getting paid, or it's just fake news. Sounds delusional. Okay.
In a system designed to prevent both. The breaking point wasn't just the Epstein files, though. That phone call crystallized everything wrong with Washington priorities. The breaking point was realizing that supporting...
Rick Young says, Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to have her own mind. Thank you.
Sexual trafficking victims had somehow become a controversial position in the Republican Party because doing so threatened people with political influence. That's when I knew I had to leave Congress. Not because I was giving up on fighting for transparency and accountability, but because I finally understood that those fights can't be won from inside a system that benefits from opacity and impunity.
This seems awfully real to me. I will research it more, but I'm pretty sure. The real L.A. Kelly says, she said it was a 20-minute call, but she picked certain statements to repeat. I'm sure there was more remarks that represent Trump's view, but she will not say them. She only wants to harm Trump. All right, thank you.
The women I met in that hearing deserved better than a political system that treats their suffering as collateral damage in protecting connected elites. They deserved better than a president who thinks their abusers deserve protection because they're his friends. Most importantly, they deserved better than Republicans who claim to care about fighting sexual trafficking while opposing transparency about the most famous sexual trafficking case in recent American history.
Okay, Juan says, this woman realized that she can make a ton of money talking crap about the best president ever in the United States, Donald Trump. Okay.
I tried for months to get those women invited to the White House to tell their stories directly to the president. I thought if he met them personally, if he heard their stories firsthand, he might understand why transparency mattered more than protecting political relationships. What I learned is that he didn't want to hear their stories. He didn't want to meet them.
Okay, so the poll or the results are in. Most individuals feel like the officer was struck by her. Okay, so it appears that most of us are on the same page as far as what was seen in the video. Big Brother Trucker says it was his policy to not put himself in front of the vehicle or shoot at someone who is fleeing. Okay, thank you.
He didn't want to acknowledge their suffering because doing so would require acknowledging that people he cared about had caused that suffering. That's not leadership. That's not justice. And it's not the kind of government that Americans deserve, regardless of which political party controls it. The Epstein files represented a test of whether we really meant what we said about transparency, accountability, and protecting children from sexual predators. The response to that test proved that political comfort will always matter more than moral courage when powerful people's interests are at stake. I failed that test by staying quiet for too long about what I witnessed. I failed those women by prioritizing political strategy over immediate action.
Deborah says she has sons. Okay. Shine On says if there really was a phone call like that, it would have been released to the public. Okay, let's get to it.
I failed the American people by trying to work within a system that was designed to protect the very corruption I was supposedly fighting. but I won't fail them anymore by pretending that system can.
Guys, Stella says like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified for upcoming shows. Thank you guys very much for doing that. And shout out to my cousin Thomasina Martin. Nice to see you here.
Be reformed from within. I won't fail them by staying silent about what I witnessed to preserve relationships with people who think protecting abusers is more important than supporting victims. That phone call in September was the moment I realized that some things are more important than political careers. Justice is more important than party loyalty. Truth is more important than political relationships. And supporting victims is more important than protecting their abusers, no matter how powerful those abusers are or how politically inconvenient that support becomes. That's why I left Congress. That's why I'm speaking out now. And that's why I will continue supporting transparency and accountability, even when doing so costs me everything I thought I wanted in Washington. Because the women I met in that hearing room deserve someone willing to lose everything to help them get justice. And they deserved better than a political system that treats their quest for accountability as a threat to be neutralized rather than a cause to be championed.
So there you have it. I'm going to research it further just to make sure, but it seems pretty accurate. But a lot of people are pushing back on the video. But what do you think, guys? You think it's fake? Tell us what you think in regards to that. We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. A lot of people actually love Marjorie Taylor Greene. So if you love her and this is her real position, how would that affect you going forward, especially thinking about, I did hear her say in several places in regards to the Epstein files that Donald Trump said that he felt like his friends would have been hurt. So it's very consistent to what I'm seeing in this video, but we're going to do some more research into it. And then tomorrow we will discuss it just like we did with the frame by frame breakdown of the video to show that the ICE agent in Minneapolis was actually grazed by the vehicle. So thank you for tuning in today. Thank you to everybody who felt the need to hit the like button, who shared the video, who subscribed to the channel. We look forward to building a nice group of people who, even though we have different beliefs, some are Republican, some are Democrat, independent, such as myself, we're able to have a meeting of the minds and come to some good conversations and also to elevate, because there's no need for us to be violent with one another. Thank you so much. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to those who keep coming back. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you back tonight at 8 p.m. for a deep dive. But until then, be safe, be well. And if you're here in New York or somewhere that's extremely cold, I'd say that you please keep warm. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.